In this video, we're going to talk about synthetic division. Synthetic division is a way to divide two polynomials. There are a lot of things to know about synthetic division, but one of the most important things to remember is that the zero is what goes in the box. We'll say 0 goes in the box. And so a lot of times when people learn synthetic division, they think, well, I need to change the sign of the number or whatever it may be. But that'll lead you to errors because sometimes you change the sign, sometimes you don't. In order to know what we mean by 0, and really it's possible 0, but we need to understand the relationship between factors and zeros. So if this is a factor, and we'll use the one from the first example, x plus 5, then the 0 is x is equal to -5. Okay, so if I want to check and see if x plus 5 is a factor, if I think x plus 5 is a factor, I'm also talking about the 0, x is equal to -5, just by setting the equation equal to 0 and solving. So you should be able to go back and forth between these two things. It's important for synthetic division, but it's also important for all of the topics that use synthetic division, this relationship between factor and 0 and factor. So if you see something that looks like this with like an x and then adding a number, an expression, that's probably a factor or might be a factor. And then if it's x equals to a number, then that's referring to a 0 or a possible 0 is how we'll use that vocab there. So factors and zeros. So this one is all this stuff divided by x plus 5. And so my factor is x plus 5 that I'm dividing by. And my 0 is x is equal to -5. So -5 is the number we're going to put in the box here. Okay, so that's the first step of synthetic division. The next step is to write the coefficients from up here. And every exponent needs a coefficient. So I have 1x to the 4th, 4x cubed. I have 0x squared. So I can't skip x squared. If it's not there, I need to use a placeholder of 0. 16x and then minus 35. Okay, and then leave yourself some space, and draw a line. And then the first thing you do is bring the 1 down. And then we're going to multiply and add. Let's write that over here. Multiply and add. Oh, before we do that, let's actually look up here. So it may be helpful to like write the exponents up here. You don't have to do this. And this is just the constant, or x to the 0 power. And that's where you can kind of see where all these numbers come from. So even if you don't write that, that may help keep track of things. And so you're going to do -5 times 1 is -5. And then you add these together. You get -1. -5 times -1 is +5. And then you add these together and you get 5. -5 times -5 is -25. Adding these together gives you -9. And then -5 times -9 is 45. Add these together and you get 10. Now, a word of caution there. Be very, very careful that you don't make mistakes. It's very easy to make a mistake. I'm re-recording this problem because I made a mistake on my multiplication. You're multiplying, let's see, how many times even? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're multiplying and adding 5 times and another 5 times. So it's a lot of places to make errors. So watch your signs is a big place for errors. And then also watch that you don't multiply when you're supposed to add or add when you're supposed to multiply. That's really easy to do in math. So work carefully. Okay, so then let's see what this means. Okay, so what this means is this is 1x cubed. So go ahead and write the 1 there, although you don't need the 1. This is -1x squared. So notice that exponents are all going down by 1. And then once you get the first one, just count down, right? So now it's plus 5x to the first, and then -9. And this is your remainder right here. So the remainder tells us a lot. We'll talk about that in a second. The way we write this is we're going to take our remainder, but we're still going to divide by x plus 5. So that's what's left over. It has not been divided yet. So we'll always write that as plus, and then the remainder divided by whatever you divided by, the polynomial you divided by. Okay, let's rewrite this without the ones. Then we'll talk about a couple things before moving on to the next one. So conceptually, a couple things to realize is why is this x to the third? Okay, we started with x to the fourth, so we'll put this over here. So x to the fourth, and then a bunch of other stuff. And if I divide x to the first, and then a bunch of other stuff. Kind of the big picture, what's happening is we're taking x to the fourth and we're dividing by x to the first. So I'm going to have x cubed and a bunch of other stuff. And so that's why this x cubed is here. That's why our exponents goes down 1. Some other things is you can see that this problem has a remainder. Think about normal division. If I do 11 divided by 2, that gives me a remainder. So 2 is not a factor of 11. So this polynomial x plus 5 is not a factor of this polynomial. We could say that. And you can also say that x equals -5 is not a 0. And then there's this other pattern, or this interesting theorem and pattern, that if I were to plug in -5 for x up here, and you could try this, if you plug in -5, you should get 10. So a lot of things come from the remainder theorem that are interesting to look at and talk about. Okay, pause the video if you have, well, wait to pause it. Now pause it. Pause the video and try this next one. And then we'll go through it kind of quickly. So here my factor is x minus 10. So my 0 is x equals 10. So that's what goes in the box. There's no placeholders here. Kind of some big numbers. If you need a calculator, that's fine. You don't need that plus sign, but right. And then remember to start, you bring that first number down. Sometimes that's hard to remember. Once you get that down, though, then you're just ready to roll. So 10 times 4 is 40. And add those together, and you get 15. Then here we get 150. Add those together, and you get -4. And then 10 times -4 is -40, and add those together to get 0. This is the big winner. 0. Means 10 is a 0. X minus 10 is a factor. A lot of good things come from that, which you'll probably study after you get synthetic division down. In the meantime, we started with x cubed, so that makes this 4x squared plus 15x minus 4, and there's no remainder, so we don't write that. So that's the answer for the synthetic division. Let's go ahead and mention this, because this is just so interesting. Since we divided that, we could rewrite this guy. Oh, my plus 40 is included there too. We could rewrite that polynomial as x minus 10, so our factor, and then times 4x squared plus 15x minus 4. And so by dividing, we're really just factoring. We have our factors, and if we were to FOIL this out or multiply these, we would get right back to where we started before we divided. But that's a little bit beyond synthetic division and more of an application of it. So good luck with synthetic division, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Reach out. Take care.